Welcome to Season 4 of the Predator Podcast. Presented by Dark Knight Outdoors, our first choice for quality thermal optics. If you're a predator hunter or wanting to become one, you're in the right place. Here's your host of the Predator Podcast, Drew Schlim.
What's up, guys? Predator Podcast, Season 4. I have one of my favorite guests on today, Wyatt Barber. You guys have heard him on here in the past seasons, and I think he's going to be going 4 for 4 in seasons here with making an appearance. So I'm glad he's on today. If you guys may have seen his YouTube content from Grounded Hunting, he posts a lot of good stuff on social media. So I'm sure you've seen it, but if you haven't, you'll have to check them out. So, Wyatt, thank you for making the time to join me tonight.
Yeah, it's good to be back. Four years in a row. I must not be getting bored of me.
Well, I'm not anyways, so that's the important part.
There you go.
All right, Wyatt. So Wyatt's a fellow Wisconsinite. He does some traveling, hunting, different places too, but he majority of his hunting is done here in Wisconsin. So, Wyatt, can you give us a little rundown? How has your um winter, I guess, so far been as far as hunting goes?
So far this year, it's been really good. I'm sure that we had that super cold spell where it was like negative, I don't know, like 20s and 30s for a while
Yeah,
there.
yeah,
During that spell, we did not kill a lot of coyotes. Super cold, and we had snow on. And when it's that cold, I mean, you know how the snow just gets
yep,
super crunchy. Everything's loud. So we had a stretch there that it was just brutal hunting. I mean, we were going out, and then add on top of that, I think on the back end of that super cold, that's when the moon started to come up, and
yep,
it was brutal. We were going out and hitting stands that I knew coyotes. We should be killing coyotes on some of my best stands, and we were not killing anything. We got towards the end of the cold spell, and we just quit hunting, honestly, which we didn't want to do. We should have stopped earlier and stopped hunting some of our better ground, but
right.
it's hard to stay home. So, but since the snow has come off and it's got the kind of the warmer temperatures, we've been running a lot of breeding sounds, having a lot of good reactions to the call. So as far as the season here in Wisconsin, besides that cold spell, it's been a really good season. Can't really complain.
Yeah. Yeah, that cold stretch was rough and you kind of hit it on the head there as soon as it got to the tail end of it. Um, you know, it was a bright moon. The snow was so loud because it was like melting and thawing and doing that whole thing, and it gets even louder. And the hard part for me was like it would warm up to, 5 degrees. And I'd think, all right, I'm gonna go tonight. It's warm, the warmest day in the last week. They gotta be out tonight. And then I'd go out and I'd hit 2 stands and it'd be quiet, or I'd hear some maybe long ways off, and then I'd get back to my truck and it's -11. And I'm like,
Yeah.
all right. I don't know about this. And I did the same thing. I hit some really good spots that I knew there was coyotes in. Got landowners texting me pictures of coyotes and stuff, and I'm like, dang it, I know there's dogs here, but just did kind of the same thing. And then it seemed like it was such a long stretch there that I didn't kill one. I killed one at like 3 o'clock in the afternoon on that one Saturday when it was like -20.
Yeah.
And I went to shoot it, and my hands were so cold I had to stick them back in my pocket for a second to warm them up before I pulled back out
Yeah.
to shoot. So
Yep.
that was brutal, but
Yeah,
um,
I don't know those nights where we go out and it's just, I mean, the nights, everybody that Kyle hunts, you usually know the kind of night I'm talking about. But when you go out and it's dead calm and every deer that you see is bedded down and it's real cold like that, it just seems so hard to get a coyote to come in. Uh, those nights we may pick up a coyote or two, but it might be we just walk into the field and they're already out there, something like that. I hardly ever have a good night where it's like on those freezing cold temperatures, but everybody talks about it. I see everybody on Facebook forums and stuff like, oh, they got to eat. That's like
yep.
it's like the old saying is like they gotta
Yep.
eat, but man, it just seems like when it's that cold, they don't do nothing.
Yep. No,
In
I
my
agree.
in my experience.
No, I agree. And I think that that's like the kind of the thing that I talk about a lot. And I know people will say like, "Oh, you can kill one anytime, it's cold, they're hungry, that old thing." And but I have the same experience as you, and I would rather save my spots than just
Yep.
pound them all just to pound them, because I can go another night. Like I can go another night when it's better, and good hunting spots are hard to come by and getting harder to come by. So it's tough to want to hammer them all when it might not be the night.
Yep. For sure.
Have you seen any heighten and hunting pressure over there, or are you still kind of in the same boat you think you've been in?
I don't know if it's more hunting pressure. I'm just more aware of it now that I've just met more people in my area.
Right,
But I definitely know of a lot more guys doing it. Um, how serious of a level that they're doing it to, I don't know. I
right.
haven't come across anybody out calling, nothing like you guys experience up there where you're out there and you hear somebody else. Nothing like that so far this year, but definitely more aware just off Facebook and people messaging me and losing some properties to some other guys, stuff like
Right.
that. I just know I'm more aware that there's guys out there, but
Yep.
honestly, I know this is it's a huge debate. It's whatever you see online and stuff. Guys are, in my opinion, if I start losing spots or I think a spot is overhunted, like I'll just get in the truck the next day, go door knock. Like I'm pretty easy going as far as pressure. If
Yep.
in my experience, it's if you're gonna like, I'm not gonna complain about pressure. I'll just go get more spots to hunt. I'll figure it out. It doesn't. I'm not gonna waste the energy complaining when I can just go put in more effort and go figure it out somewhere else. In my experience, that's just a better take on it. We can
Yep.
talk about that later, but experience that some out of state, you know, certain out of state places I hunted this year get some stereotypes of you can't hunt certain properties because they won't be good, or you got to hunt private, you can't hunt the public, and
Yep.
I'm one of those guys that like to break the stereotypes. I like to just go out and whether it's prove somebody wrong or just, oh, you can't call a coyote on that public because it's been called, or, everybody and their brother calls that public. It's not going to be any good. And then we go call in a quad on the public. Like it's just
Yep.
something about it's like, it can be done. All these people saying it can't be done. I don't know. I just like to go against the grain sometimes. So
Yep. Yep.
as
No,
far as
I
the
totally.
pressure here, though, but yeah, I think I'm just more aware of it this year than anything else. So I would say I don't know if there's any more pressure here than there usually is, but
Right. Yep. No, I agree. It's funny when you meet somebody and they start telling where they hunt, and then all of a sudden you realize it's right next to where you hunt, and you're like, "Oh shit, I
yeah,
didn't even realize you realize someone hunted that property."
yeah,
Uh, but yeah, I uh I think it's hard pressed for guys like me and you who are always, kind of promoting the sport, to be upset about more people doing it. That's how I guess how I've kind of felt is, it's hard for me to help people and, get people into thermal and, um, you know, help them figure, out how to call them in and whatever else and answer their questions and then say, oh, but by the way, I'm gonna be mad at you for hunting. Um,
yeah.
you
It
know,
comes with the territory for sure. I mean, it's funny that you brought this up. I just had a landowner last week. I went out and hunted the property. Older lady, and I hunted the property. And after I got done hunting, I just texted her and I was like, I didn't see anything. And she just texted me back and she's like, oh, that's too bad. I had a younger gentleman stop by. I think she was talking like a teenager stopped by and he said that he knew you or whatever, and he was wondering if he could coyote hunt. So I let him go out there just for one night, even though you hunted it. And she's just like, I hope he didn't screw it up, or I hope that like doesn't make you mad. I was like, it's your property. Like, I can't control the variables. Like if you let some kid go out there, and he went out there and he knew about me, like I don't know if he was out there coyote hunting because of me, but like, you know, obviously he coyote hunted the property that I did, and I just told her I was like, I promote the sport, you promote the sport. Like there's that kind of comes with the territory. I was like, I'm not upset about it at all. Like
right.
that's the name of the game, and I didn't call a coyote there that night, whether it was because he had hunted it a couple weeks prior. I mean, I had no clue. I heard coyotes, but I didn't see anything. So
Right.
just comes with the territory of promoting, making videos and doing all that stuff is getting more people into the game, but is what it is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think I have noticed that there was that big viral post that went out a couple weeks ago. I'm sure you saw it, like of people saying how, landowners, they need to understand that, the more people that hunt, the harder it is or whatever it was. Like
Yep.
I saw that like shared by so many people and I was like, I'm not sharing that. Like I do not want my landowners that I hunt thinking that I need to tell them who can and can't hunt their property.
Yeah.
Like I'm always just like, hey, it's your land, like whatever. But like at the end of the day, like I think if you are professional, you're respectful, more so, you're not driving in people's fields and tearing up their lawn or whatever it might be, you're super respectful, professional, you are successful. I think that helps, being out there and actually killing coyotes out there, showing them that you're killing them or telling them. And, when they have issues like, hey, they're right in my yard last night or they're in my, chase my dog, whatever it might be, that you actually get out there and actually kill them. And then I think that helps you earn trust and, kind of rapport with that landowner. And then that's how I've gotten into a lot of situations where they don't let other people hunt.
Yep.
So,
100%.
I just think doing things the right way, is going to
Yep.
get you
Those are the best landowners to pick up when you go up to them and you get their. I like to get their phone number, so I can text them before I go out, even if they don't require it. Like just asking if I can text them because also what I found is if you ask for their phone number, you get their phone number, you ask them prior to going hunting. Yes, it's kind of takes a little bit more effort because you have to think ahead of time. You got to plan your stands out. But a lot of times, what I found is, you go hit a stand. If you kill their landowner or something, you can text them afterwards and be like, "Hey, just so you know, we did kill these." And then that kind of builds that, like you said, that rapport with them. Where in the future, if somebody else comes and knocks on their door, they're going to say, "Hey, I actually already have this guy." The landowners that I've noticed from my experience that I pick up where they're like, "Yeah, have at it at any time. Like, don't text me, don't call me. Like." Go whenever you want. Usually those are the properties where I am not the only one there.
Yeah, totally agree. Yeah, the guys that reach out to you and say get out here and hunt, those are the ones that I've found too that are like uh telling
Yeah.
everyone that.
Yep.
One of the craziest ones I ever saw was not even me, it was a buddy, and he had this landowner that put him in a group chat with
Oh boy.
a bunch of people that had permission on his farm. That was a good one.
Yep.
I was like, oh my gosh. And I'm pretty sure my buddy never went back, but it was pretty funny. But
Yep.
yeah, that's how it goes. And it's out of your control or, my control anyhow. I don't own property, so I don't expect to own someone else's. So,
Yeah. I don't know. In my experience, like there may come a day where it gets so bad where you can't drive, pretty much right now I can get my truck and I can drive an hour in any direction and I can door knock on somebody's door and they'll, oh yeah, nobody's ever coyote hunted this, go for
yep,
it. As long as I can still go do that, I'll go get properties, I'll make it happen. Like it doesn't bother me. If there comes a day where it's like, I can't do that, then obviously it's going to be a little different. My viewpoint on it might change, but as of right now, like if I can still jump in my truck, go drive 30 minutes and knock on somebody's door and get permission, like it's I'm not going to complain about another losing another property. I'm just going to go
right.
get more property somewhere else.
Right. And one thing that I've heard, one thing that I've heard no more than any other, I think late like as of the last few years, some of the most common no's I've ever heard were like, "Hey, no, I'm gonna have to tell you no because I had a bad experience with someone
Yep.
else. Now I don't let anyone hunt here anymore, or I
Yep.
don't let anyone coyote hunt here anymore because, you know, people came in here and, scared my dog or, whatever. There's a, long list of things that could happen, but I've heard that more than anything. And obviously that's a tough one to combat. So, the it doesn't necessarily help any of us if people are out there, you know, jacking around and pissing off landowners.
Yeah, that's the one side of night hunting that you don't see, and if you do it a lot, you understand. But like you're out there at 3 o'clock in the morning, a lot of the times you could pull in a pasture, you could leave a gate open. For the most part, like nobody's gonna know that it was you, right? You could whatever you do, you could you know shoot at a raccoon or whatever it is. Basically, nobody's gonna know. Like
Yeah, there's
there's no
nobody watching you.
repercussions for it, right? There's nobody watching you. So a lot of times as a night hunters, I don't know, I feel like it sounds bad and not in an illegal way, but it's easier to get away with things that, maybe the landowner wouldn't approve of because they're not watching you do it or it's not daylight.
Right.
But that's the stuff that in the future, that landowner is going to eventually come up, and that's what gives us a bad rap is, hey, I let so and so, they didn't close my gate. The next day I had cattle in there and they got out, right? Like that's the stuff
Yep.
that hurts us as night hunters.
Yep.
That type of stuff that happens.
Yep. I totally agree. And yeah, the gate open one's a bad one. That's you don't
Yeah,
want someone's cows getting out, especially today.
definitely not.
Cows are worth a lot of money, and yeah, you that's a quick way for not having permission there anymore. But
Yeah,
yeah,
for sure.
that's why I try to not drive places. Like if I can, like I would rather just cross the gate and walk. Like
Yep.
I just like I don't want to get stuck. I don't want to get, you know, leave a gate open, just all that stuff. Like I would rather just park at the gate and just hop over and
Yeah,
walk.
for sure. Here in Wisconsin, I've had plenty of landowners here in Wisconsin be like, drive out there if you want to, or do whatever you got to do out there. Like just those landowners where they don't care, right? They're just
Yeah.
have at it. Like even in those situations, I can't even tell you a time that I drove into a field in Wisconsin. Most of the time, it's not worth it because the fields are not that big, or the properties aren't big
Right.
enough to justify driving out there. But
Yep.
you know, I'm not too lazy. I'll go drag a coyote 300 yards and avoid
Yep.
driving in the field if I have to.
Yeah.
It's not worth it to me, in my opinion.
Yep. No, I agree. The other thing too that I think, as there gets to be, more hunters, more thermal, more whatever. Um, and another thing too, here in Wisconsin, when we get a good winter of snow, we deal with not deal with, it's a bad way to say it. Hound hunters are able to hunt a lot more. And that adds some pressure too, at least in my area, in some of the
Yep.
areas I hunt. And nothing wrong with that. It's just another factor. And as all these things mount up, I still think that one of my favorite things to do is just up and leave and go hunt
Yep.
somewhere else in another state. And even if you struggle a little bit, it's still fun being somewhere else and learning, new ground, hitting new spots, seeing new country, meeting new people, all those things. I think that can go a long ways, especially for me, like just being able to go somewhere else and hit it hard for a couple days, get away from, your job, your whatever, take a Friday off and take off and go somewhere and hunt for, 2 days. I think
Yep.
that's a big factor too for me.
Yeah. Maybe at our old age we'll change our ways, but like there's things that come up and like I don't know. I have properties that the snowmobile trail runs through, and like
Yeah,
snow comes
exactly.
on, snowmobiles are ripping through. Like it's just they're out of my control, and I could either be frustrated about them and complain about it, or I can just pick up, like you said, pick up. And this is not for everybody. That not everybody has the freedom just to like, hey, I'm going to go try a different state, right? But like you have the freedom to go not door knock on 10 different properties and hunt a completely different area where you may not have tried because you had plenty of properties, but now the snowmobile trail or whatever the circumstances, you have to. It's forcing you into a different situation. So I agree with all these negatives that come up, snow on, snowmobiles, hound hunters, like you either have the option to complain about it and not kill coyotes, or you can go door knocking some properties where the snowmobile doesn't run through and you
Yep.
can, go kill coyotes, have success. So for every negative, there's a positive somewhere. You just gotta be willing to work for it.
Yep. Yeah, I totally agree.
Maybe
And
I'll complain more in my old age, but
yeah, well, I don't know. I mean, I feel like this is the norm for us. Like I feel like a lot of the old timers, sorry if anyone is offended by the word the phrase old timers. A lot of people that have been doing it for years, this is just a big change for them. Like I just
Yep.
feel like we've just sort of grown up, you know, we, I guess, maybe we were on the front end of the thermal boom, but we were to an extent, in it too,
Yeah, and I see it. Yeah, I see it in all different aspects. Coyote hunting. I see it a lot in deer hunting too, where it's like I've grown up my whole life hunting public land, where you can be set up for 20 minutes, a guy can walk up and screw your whole hunt up. Like that's just a
Right.
normal hunt on public. And
Yep.
I feel like that's definitely translated for me into coyotes, but a lot, like you said, not to offend anybody, but the old timers, if they go out there in public or if their hunt gets screwed up, they take it to heart a lot more than some of us younger guys because, us younger guys worry, especially in the predator stuff, it's highly competitive. There's a lot of guys out doing it. If you are not comfortable or if you're not okay with somebody not, taking a landowner from you or losing a property here or somebody else hunting the property, like you're not gonna have a whole lot of people, you're not gonna have a whole lot of properties to hunt because you're gonna make all these excuses for why you can't go hunt them. It's
Right.
just definitely different generations kind of handle it differently.
Right. Yep, no, I agree. And I try to be cordial with everybody. Like I have people all the time, they're like, "Man, I got permission to hunt such and such." And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I hunt there or I've hunted there for 15 years," but it's like whatever. Like it is what it is, but I've actually, I've said it before, but like I've actually stopped hunting several spots just, for that reason. And someone else is in there, fine. Like have at it, like no
Yep.
sense in me stepping on your toes. I guess I don't even feel like my toes are stepped on. I guess I don't
Yep.
even like it's not my property. So like I don't feel like someone came and, snubbed me. It's not like the landowner said, "Oh yeah, he hunts here, but maybe you can come out here once in a while." Like, no, you got permission and it is what it is. Like,
Yeah. And that, in my opinion, that attitude, it's funny we're having this conversation, but I had a landowner actually call me today and he told me, he said, I have one of his somebody that he knows called him and asked him if he could coyote hunt, and the landowner was like, "No, I actually have Wyatt that currently coyote hunts it," and he basically chewed out the landowner, saying that I was, whatever he wanted to say. Basically, he was mad that I was already on the property, and the landowner told me because I was on the phone with him afterwards. He's just like, I want to give you permission over him just because you're professional, you're very honest. What happens out there, you asked me before, you're very respectful of my property. He told me up front, and every landowner is going to be different. Some landowners are going to be let everybody go, but this particular landowner told me, he's like, you've been so respectful. You've hunted my property for years. I have no reason to let him go over you. And in my experience dealing with landowners, that type of mentality, like you said, I have no toes to be stepped on. Somebody takes a property from me, it's not going to bother me. But having that mentality goes a lot farther in this game, in my experience, especially when it comes to dealing with landowners.
right. Yep, I agree. And just like you said, and we've said, just being respectful, and professional. And it can go, a long ways and help you, and then I think too, the snowball onto that is, hey, that landowner speaks highly of you. They tell this landowner, that landowner.
Exactly.
I've gotten a lot of properties that way just from, word of mouth, saying, hey, this guy does things the right way, or, lets me know when he's coming out here. I had a problem and, he came out and took care of it. I've had some interesting ones where, there was a landowner a few weeks ago that was actually right around that cold stretch, and she was like, "Hey, kind of asking me questions like concerned about her dog and coyotes and whatever." And um, I just kind of answered her questions, like trying to kind of make it so she wasn't too worried about it. And then I'm like, she's like pretty much like they're coming up to my yard in the daylight, which in Wisconsin's not normal, I would say.
Yeah, definitely not.
not probably not a great thing. And it's hard to know what's really happening without being there. But then like it must have been like a half an hour later, she just texted me a picture out her window of a coyote, and I'm like, oh no, like this is a problem. Like I'll be there tomorrow, and I got 10 feet from my truck, and a pair came out behind her shed, and yeah, so she had a problem, and things like that happen. But again, like my experience is like you take out a couple or you take out that one or two, that pair maybe, that was really, trying to lay down territory there. Usually it's kind of diverted at that point. So, but then the landlord's happy. I
Yep.
didn't make excuses, and I didn't say, you know, you're full of it or whatever. I just said, okay, I'll be out, and it's all you can do.
Yep.
Um, okay, so we talk about kind of traveling and making a run somewhere else. I know you've ran across the state of Wisconsin, you've went to Kansas, you've went to wherever, and you know, this year I think more than I guess maybe I've noticed in the past for you. Maybe it's just because you've put more of an emphasis on it. You've really had laid down some good daylight hunts. And I know one thing that I see people kind of asking, commenting, and wondering is like, where, like, how do you keep finding, and what are you looking for to find, these daylight hunts that people think are just a needle in the haystack?
Well, those are just the ones you see, right? So, I mean, everybody, yeah, I've seen the comments too, people asking the same thing. What a lot of people don't see is obviously the plentiful blank stands that we go and make that, we don't call coyotes on. That's the downside of social media and Facebook and
Yep.
YouTube. People see all the good stuff. They don't see all the work that goes in behind it. Um, Traveling out of state, we went down to, some Kansas being one of them. There's um there's a lot of and just going off of online forums and different people online and see there's a lot of ways to make excuses of why you can't go call coyotes on in daylight in these places
Yep.
or even Wisconsin, like there's, oh, you can't call daytime Wisconsin coyotes, you can't do that. Like our experience there, you just gotta have, like, there's certain things depending on where you're hunting. When we went out to western Wisconsin, like we're looking for certain things, you have to have the right for that state or wherever you're hunting. You have to have the certain things where line up. Like if I'm looking at a property in Wisconsin, it's got to have certain things, heavy timber, or thick stuff where I think, all right, there could be a coyote laid up in there, and I got to call them 200 yards out to this field edge. Given I don't, it's my stands in Wisconsin for daytime are going to be completely different than my Kansas daytime stands
Right.
or South Dakota or, a Nevada daylight stand. I'm not
Yep.
going to expect a coyote to come 600 yards through this open pasture to get to me. Like that's my experience in Wisconsin, daylight hunting. Like, can it happen? Yes. Is it something that you want to bank on every stand? Definitely not.
No.
So a lot of the stands that we were making in western Wisconsin, what we were finding is, you get into the low spot because a lot of those fields up there, fields are set up on top, and then you have timber, down in the valleys. Well, every time that you have one of those fingers of timber that comes up to the field, that's a low spot in the field. So what we were doing is, man, we were getting into these little tiny spots where we could only see 100, 200 yards max down to the field edge. And we were just calling these little tiny valleys, keeping our volume super low. And we were calling coyotes up out of this timber. And these coyotes, from what I'm guessing, because we were calling them in so quick, I think that they were just laid up in those low valleys and they just would pop into the field just quick. Um, and that's where we were finding them. But we could walk over the hill, not even 400 yards, make another stand, and call on another coyote. And I know that they were hearing us from the previous stand, but I think that based on how far they were from us, like a Wisconsin coyote is probably not going to cut that distance
Right.
in broad daylight. So just knowing the terrain that you're hunting in, Now you go to a different state, that completely changes. The ranges that a coyote will travel in daytime to get to you is going to be completely different in Kansas versus Wisconsin. Wisconsin, like I
Right.
said, it's that range that they're going to come to you is a lot smaller. Even if
Yeah,
they hear
even
you,
yeah, even at night it's smaller, I think, a lot of times.
yeah, definitely is. Obviously, day versus night, their ranges are going to expand.
Right.
Um, but yes, I agree. But in Wisconsin, like we were daytime calling coyotes. What we were looking for, like I said, just low spots in the field where they could still have security to get to the sound without exposing themselves to the whole field, and just getting in that bubble where you think a coyote's going to be comfortable to show himself. That's what we look for in daytime stanzas. At night, they have all the security of darkness. During the day, they need the terrain, they need the wind, like they need that security to show up. If they don't have that, they may show up, somewhere's in the timber. They may circle downwind. You're not going to see them. Now, when we go
Right.
to Kansas and stuff, those stands out there, what we're looking for is just spots that I think it's so weird out there because out there you can call a coyote out of a tree line or out of a ditch line. Like they'll
Yeah,
come from
out of
literally the middle
nowhere.
of nowhere, yeah,
Yeah.
in the middle of the daytime. Um, but what we look for out there is a lot of times cedars. See, I really like calling like butted up next to cedars.
Yep.
Um, especially like in the mornings, those cedar like an open area next to the cedars seems to be like always produce coyotes. I don't know if they just like the cover. I'm sure that they like the cover, but we had a lot of good stands out there, butted up next to cedars. And then as far as that, I mean, it's states like Kansas and others like South Dakota, like certain states like that. It's not a numbers game, but you gotta. I don't know. It's weird because Kansas, I feel like we can go just about anywhere and we have the potential to call a coyote. Obviously, some stands look
Right.
better than others,
Yep.
but it's a numbers game. You go and hit these stands, and we've been going back to Kansas for I think 5 or 6 years now. So we have some daylight stands that are top of that priority list. Like, hey, we're gonna
Yep.
hit that one first thing in the morning. We're gonna hit that stand last thing in the evening because we know from historical hunts, we know that those will usually produce coyotes, or we know that they can hold coyotes. But
Right.
a lot of times out there, it's just putting on road miles, figuring out, hey, that stand, it's been blank 3 years in a row. Maybe this time we skip it and we go hit this other stand that
Yep.
we know produced a coyote last year. Like, I don't know. Out there in Kansas, it's if I lived out there, man, it'd be crazy. I'd figure a lot of this stuff out. But
Yeah.
talking to guys like Heath Johnson out there and guys like that, it's like if you can do it on public land out there too. That's the other thing. Is like a lot of guys don't talk about it, but where if public land does come up, it's just automatically a negative. But you can do it on public. Like I know you can go out there and you can hit these public land stands just like you would hit a private land stand. Like the public
Yeah.
and private doesn't play into it. It's just you got to go figure out what works. You got to go put in
Yep.
the work and the road miles to go hit these stands, and you may not kill 20 coyotes on public in your first year, but when you come back the second and the third year, you can be like, hey, that stands up. That's the money stand. Like we go hit that stand first thing in the morning, we're gonna kill coyotes, and then you
Right.
figure out the stands over time. So
Yeah. I mean,
kind of how we figure out daytime coyotes. It's how it goes. You gotta
yep.
be out there working for it to figure it out.
Yep. No, I agree. And a good point touched on there too at the end. Yeah, it is certainly possible to call coyotes in on public land. For those of you that are too intimidated to travel somewhere and hunt because there's no public land, or there's I don't know anybody, or I don't have any private land connections. I have a handful of stands I can think of right now off the top of my head without even looking at my Onyx that I know of 100% stand that's on public, and I know of one that I think is a 75 percenter now. I think we've blanked at one out of four. Um, but like I've had some run over the call hard chargers on public land. It's just it's certainly doable. I just think you gotta think outside the box a little bit. Don't sit right next to the road like, you know, maybe some other guys would. Go back over that hill, get back into that cover, find a little different way to set up than you think everybody might. And I think you can certainly have success on public land. Also, I think if you're going to travel out of state and it's your first time, I think it's a great starting point just for learning, understanding the terrain, look at what to look for, and then at that point you're out there, and when you're out there, you see a farmer, you see a landowner, stop and talk to them. And, that's a good way to lead to, getting some private land connections too.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, some of the best days and best stands that we've had, in out of state hunts is where we're in states where the public is abundant and you can make, 15 stands in a day or whatever you're trying to make, depending on how far they're spread out. But states like Kansas, I mean, even Nevada, like looking at them on a map, they don't, some of these public land spots or just any spots in general, they don't, if you're coming from like Wisconsin, you're looking for that perfect field where it butts up to timber. Like
Yep.
obviously everybody wants that perfect stand. You got elevated position. Like, don't get me wrong. Like when I'm in Wisconsin, I'm looking for that ideal stand because that's what it takes in Wisconsin. That's what it takes in some of these Midwest states. But traveling out of state, I've rolled up to, looked at it on the map and been like, in Kansas specifically, hunting one
Just
stand and we're going to the next one that looks good on the map. And hey, there's a little piece right here it doesn't look great, but like let's swing over there and call it just because it's in between. And we go call it. And it's like, man, this looks way better in person than it did on the maps,
yep.
because maybe a neighboring property is really good and this tiny little piece of public but borders it, But
Right.
it's like to your eye on the map, it doesn't look like something that jumps out at you. And that's kind of where Onyx can be an upside and a downside. The downside being you can just skip over properties that don't look good to your eye. But if you actually went in and put some of the effort in and looked at these properties, in person, you realize like this is a good stand. And then you kill a coyote on there and then like it's in your mind and you mark it on Onyx, like, yep, this is a good one. Like we can kill a coyote here next year, years to come. But a lot of that just takes more work, obviously, to go hit those spots and see them in
Yeah.
person. But basically what I'm saying is like some of those stands that you see on Onyx or properties that you see on Onyx in certain states where it's more wide open country, they're very easy from a Midwest or like a Wisconsin mindset just to cross them off because they're too open or not enough cover. And from my experience, sometimes those are the best producing stands, surprisingly.
Yeah, I agree. One thing that comes to mind here is so this is something that I did when we first started going, to Kansas and whatnot too, is like you look at stuff on a map, it looks like nothing, and then you drive by it, and all of a sudden you're like, oh man, that looks way better. And like I think if I could go back and like, okay, so I'm gonna go, I'm going to Wyoming, Montana. So this is gonna come out on Tuesday, the 20. What date is that? The This is gonna come out on Wednesday, the 25th. So I'll be headed to Wyoming, Montana, the 26th. And well, the first thing that I plan on doing is driving around a little bit and looking at some of these spots that I have pinned just to see what they look like so that I can understand what I'm looking at. Like because the cover and everything is so different, compared to from what we're used to. Like some of the stuff looks prime, some of it looks like it's wide open. I want to see what they look like in person, so I in the daylight, so I can say, okay, yep, this is what I want. Hey, this is what I don't want.
Yep.
Granted, it's all gonna look good, but you know what I mean. But I still want to see, to decide, okay, this is gonna be a day stand, this is gonna be a night stand, um, things like that. But I just think it helps to see it so you understand what you're looking at. Like, if you're first going to Kansas and you're looking at this creek bottom or, whatever, you might not know there's a, big patch of cedars right in the bottom of it, but once you drive out there and see it or, walk over the hill and look and see, oh man, that looks really good. I think it helps then look at your maps and identify more of those same type things.
Yeah, especially in the states, like you said, like I'm sure you're gonna find this in Wyoming, but like we found in Nevada, like a lot of that stuff is low-lying sage, and it's you can see a creek bottom on Onyx, but you don't really know what a creek bottom out there looks like. It's like their creek
Yeah.
bottoms don't look like it's not like a Kansas creek bottom where you look, it's like, okay, there's the only, 20 trees in the whole, properties right there. Like that's the defined creek bottom. That's where the coyotes are gonna be. And hunting these other states where it's much more vast, and the terrain, like you can look on Onyx all day and like you can't tell some of these areas like Nevada, like it, especially if, as an out of stater, like to my eye, it's like on Onyx, it's like I don't know where I want to hunt. Like it all looks good, it all
Right.
looks the same, and then you got to go out there and you got to put in the boot leather and be like, okay, this is this is where the coyotes out there. Granted, like a coyote can hang out. Their range out there is much more vast, and they can be anywhere out there, but you do want to dial in like to be successful in those areas. I feel like you do want to, and if you lived in one of those areas, obviously you just naturally start doing it because that's where you're going to kill coyotes. But as an out of stater coming in on a week hunt or something, like the quicker that you can dial in on those, hey, this is the creek bottoms, this is what, this is the type of terrain that they like, and then going back on Onyx and finding more stands that compare to the one that you had success
Yep.
on, that's where Onyx can be killers when you can go and see it in person, have success. All right, here's what we got to do. Let's go duplicate that. Then you can go back to Onyx and find those stands. You don't have to figure it out, on the fly as much.
Yeah, I agree. And what I like to do too, like I'm doing this right now, is, I'm getting ready to go on a trip and I've been, scouring Onyx and, I really look at, the topo lines and everything. And I drop pins on where I think I should set up. Like just so I have a starting point. Like it may not be exact, but like, I don't just throw pins in random places and then just drive out there and hope to figure it out because in the dark, like especially if it's in the dark, like you're gonna get out there and you're gonna be like, oh man, this is not the right spot. I should have been over there, whatever it might be. And when you're out there, like Wyatt, you know this from being out in anywhere in the West, like if you're not in the right spot and you can't see that low spot that's to your left or whatever, they're gonna get around you. They're gonna swing, they're gonna circle way around you. They're gonna pile into the call and run past you. Um, Whatever might happen, or they're gonna hang up, of course. But you just having a starting point to go off of. To at least your eye, if you understand topo lines and you're able to look at a map and kind of pick it apart and say, okay, that's where I would be able to see the best. And Onyx has that glassing tool, I believe, that you can,
Yep.
right? You can, and it shows you what you can kind of see from these points.
Yeah, you can
And
do like the 3D, and then yeah, you can kind
yeah,
of see your advantage.
right. And like those things using those tools, because like if you can do that for, 20 stands and you have sort of, a rough game plan, I think it gets you so much farther ahead than stumbling around out there in the dark trying to find out where you need to set up. Back to the truck, we got to drive down there. Just I think there's a host of things that just a little bit of time, e-scouting after the kids go to bed, after your, you know, wife goes to bed, whatever it might be, just spend some time on the computer, doing these type of things and kind of organizing yourself. And then what I'll do is as I get closer, like within a couple days where I think the wind is, at least somewhat accurate, I will go and I will color code my pins like for the wind or for that, like let's say my Fridays are blue pins. I'm gonna go blue pins for Friday. And I know okay, the wind's right for these on Friday. Saturday's red pins, whatever it might be.
Yep.
Just so I can stay organized and like, because sometimes it's a little overwhelming. Like, especially going out there where there's, thousands of acres everywhere. It's like, where are we gonna go next? Okay, well, if I already have this kind of lined up ahead of time, I can sort of work through it. And of course, you're gonna find stands and things on the way, and oh, that looks good. Let's call that quick. But just being organized, putting in, a little bit of time on the computer and stuff before you go on the drive out. If you're not driving, looking at your phone, whatever. I think
Yep.
just being organized, even if it's not right, like even if you make some mistakes, and it's still gonna get you in a better place and help you learn faster, in my opinion, rather than just going in the dark and with blinders on and hoping for the best.
Yeah, 100%. If you can do all those little things like add up to there's a saying out there somewhere, but it's like all those micro, things that you're doing to progress yourself forward. That's how you end up with a 10 coyote day or something where it's like, wow, the picture looks great. People on Facebook, man, you got lucky. It's like, no, like you
Yeah.
just didn't see all the micro, what one thing I like to do, before I go hunt an area, the information's out there. I'll jump on podcasts, I'll jump on YouTube, I'll listen to guys that hunt those states that I'm headed to,
Yep.
wherever it's at, and I'll pick up small things because I mean that's the nice thing about the internet, and a lot of these guys nowadays, they're open with information about their home states or wherever, definitely wherever you're going, there's somebody that lives there and hunts there consistently, and they if you can take in that information, have it fresh at the front of your mind and apply that to some of your hunting, not everybody, there's nobody out there has everything figured out, but there's definitely some guys in these states that you're headed to, that have years and years, a lifetime experience there. Why not jump on a podcast and listen to, you know, something? You may pick up one or two things, but that could give you another three or four stands that make you successful, just by picking up free information. There's no reason not to.
Yeah.
So that's one thing me and my brother do. If we're headed to a certain state, we'll look up podcasts or YouTube videos on that state, and the whole drive, that's what we're listening to. We're getting that like, all right, yep, this is what, literally the residents, people that are hunting this area consistently, this is what they're looking for, and then that's kind of gets us in the right mindset. And obviously we're on Onyx the whole time on the way out there, but
Yep.
that's also one thing that we like to do on our way out to a trip for sure, is listen to some podcasts and get it fresh in our mind.
Yep. I agree. And another thing too that I think guys don't take into account too is I am all for someone saying, don't do this. Like I'm okay with someone telling me, pointing me, at least even just telling me things to avoid. Like, hey, avoid going down these dirt roads after it rains. Or you know how the roads get in the west when you get off the beaten path. It's like, okay, thank you. I appreciate that. Uh, Even all those little things that someone might just even like sometimes I think people even think they're being rude, like in trying to not be helpful, and they'll be like, "Well, I don't know anything, but don't drive on the roads when it gets wet." Hey, fine. All I got out of that was don't drive on those roads when it gets wet, and now I know. So, like, just take the little things, um, and every little thing helps. If I can take on every bit of information from everyone and every, person that's been out there, I've been talking to people that have been, even in the same state or the same general region. And, it's all more common than you think. But I think all those things can just help add up to you being prepared and ready to go do something, like go on an out of state trip.
Yep. And then like, yeah, all obviously like you said, like it all applies across the board. And then time of year, like same thing with the podcast, like we're listening to people with a lot of experience, like Tori Cook or somebody where they interact with coyotes a lot. They're around, they know where the coyotes are at, um, in certain regions of the country. That also helps because what's working here in Wisconsin might not be working in Nevada. So if you can listen to somebody that's, is talking about that time of month that you're going out, that is also, obviously that's just more information that you can put in your back pocket.
Right. Yep. I totally agree. Uh, Wyatt, you have had a unique ability to run several different scopes and binoculars and handhelds, whatever, in the last handful of months. Um, what, I guess, what are some takeaways you've had from running so many different thermal optics brands? From super high end to not as high end to different styles of scopes, different, you know, styles of hand scanners. What are some takeaways that you've, gotten from trying out and being able to run so many different optics?
My main takeaway, and I've been, like you said, I've been had the ability, and this is my situation, but had the ability to work with Outdoor Legacy. So super, super appreciative to those guys, but they've been able to send me optics. I've been able to test them. My biggest takeaway after testing a bunch of optics and my experience over the last few months working with those guys is the bottom, the lower end optics are way better than what I saw, 8, 9 years ago when I got into it. Like
Yep.
the stuff the stuff that is the lower end, that I look through today, I'm like, man, like I can't even imagine some of these guys that started thermal hunting 15, 20 years ago. They must look through some of these lower end scopes and be like, this is insane compared to what we used to use.
Right.
Um, the market is just, I mean, it's crazy what you can get for your money nowadays. I mean, you're talking like 640 is kind of like becoming the new normal.
Right.
Everybody, if you don't have a 640, 640 is becoming the new 384. It's kind of crazy, but I mean, it's good. 1280, obviously run the Ricks 1280. Insane, like overkill. I don't know if you got that kind of money, like, and you want to have the best optic on the market, like it's there. But just my biggest takeaway from just using all these different optics is, man, it's a good time to get into the sport because, like I said, like what you can get for your money, what you can get for 2,500 bucks, 3 grand, 3,500 bucks, and put on your rifle, compared to what some guys were using 10 years ago or even 5 years ago, is so much better. And all the features that they're adding, like it is everybody's adding a rangefinder nowadays. Everybody's got a ballistic calculator.
Yep.
That's just becoming the new normal, which is a good thing. I'm not complaining, but I'm just saying that all those features are just getting built into every scope, and it's a crazy time to be a thermal hunter and to be able to get my hands on different units and look through different units. Um, Pretty exciting stuff. It'll probably be a while before 1280 becomes the new normal. So we'll probably be stuck here for a
Yeah.
little bit, but some pretty crazy optics on the market.
Yeah, I agree. And that's one thing too. I've obviously been fortunate enough to, try out lots of different optics too. And I think that's one thing when guys ask me questions like about, some of these lower end scopes, I'm like, man, I used that scope for 2 months and dude, I had no problem at all out there hunting with it. And, I think a lot of people just think, oh, you got to spend $5,000 in order to get into thermal. And I just don't necessarily think that's true. I think that it's certainly okay to start somewhere. Like, you know, I would, if I had to tell someone what my advice would be, I would say you at least start with a 384. But I mean, honestly, I just think that starting somewhere, figuring out if you like it, figuring out if it's something that you want to keep doing, and then, kind of doing the sell and upgrade game, I think there's nothing wrong with that. And I just think, the idea that you gotta spend, over 5,000 or more dollars to get into the sport, I think is pretty crazy.
Yeah, I feel like those days are definitely going behind us. Um, there's definitely some guys out there where, like you said, like that's kind of the thought process, but that for thermal is definitely going away a little bit. I have some guys that message me and they're asking about the downside to thermal and the whole industry right now is something new comes out and the old models or what you have on your gun currently becomes less impressive or less
Right.
valuable because, well,
People
now
view it
there's
as
this on the
obsolete.
market. Right. Because, well,
Yeah.
now there's this on the market and it's better and it's got this higher rating and whatever it is, like your scope becomes obsolete. But man, I mean, back to the IRA TH50C. I ran that scope for version one, like I killed so many coyotes with that scope.
Yeah.
Both my brother and I, like, such a solid unit. I would have
Yep.
no problem picking it up today, putting it on my rifle and going killing coyotes. Like,
Yeah.
yes, there's been how many other versions released and other brands and better and all of these other features, but like I know I could pick that scope up tomorrow and go kill the same amount of coyotes that I'm killing today with a 1280.
Right.
Um, it's kind of the natural progression, to want to upgrade and to want to get the better units, especially if you hunt a lot. Like there's features built into these new optics and battery life gets better. And if you
Yep.
do a lot, like you're naturally probably gonna just progress upgrading and Like that's just kind of how it works out. But to get into the market, that's you definitely don't have to go drop 5 grand anymore. Which is a good thing, gets a lot
Yeah,
more guys out there and just makes it a lot more reasonable for a lot of guys.
right. Yeah, I had somebody ask me the other day, um, they had whatever thermal, maybe they were just looking to get into it. But the optic they asked me about was the Knockpix Bolt L35R, I think.
Hmm.
And he was like, "Hey, should I get this or should I, buy once, cry once, get something a little better?" And I'm thinking to myself, man, you've never looked through that optic before. Like that's a nice unit for like what you're asking for just getting into thermal. Like I couldn't imagine having that thing when I was 18.
Yeah,
Like
yeah. I hunt with some guys. I'm like, man, if you like, it's definitely the new normal. It's like I hunt with some guys where they didn't get into 384s. They just bought a 640. Now they look through a 1280 that I might be running. They're like, man, I'd love to have like that would be sick to have that thing. I'd be like, if you saw what I started hunting with, like my first scope, I would be embarrassed to show it to you. Like you don't
yeah,
even want to know. I didn't know if it was like a Sig Sauer like way back in the day. Like it was a holographic thermal, like so bad and you just like what you can get into nowadays. Like if you're complaining about a 640, and like I said, I didn't even know what the guys were dealing with 15 years ago. Like they must be mind blown with the market nowadays. But um, yeah, it's crazy.
yeah. No, I agree. Uh, Scanners. Have you had a few of them in your hands? Do you have a favorite? Do you I can't believe that they've came out with a 1280 scanner now. That I am excited to see. That I mean, totally unnecessary in my opinion, but it'll be one of them things once you have it. It's pretty dang awesome.
Yeah, I have not touched a 1280 scanner. It's on the top of my list to try and get my hands on because it's just the form factor, everything that Knockpix has done to that unit looks right up my alley as for coyote hunting. Um, as far as scanners, I ran some Pulsar scanners, but now I'm just running my old scanner for right now and just going through some different scopes. Ended up getting rid of the helmet unit, as you know.
Yep,
Ended up switching out of the helmet unit. I just didn't use it enough. If I lived in a different state, I would probably definitely own a helmet, but I ended up switching back to binos. Um, but yeah, as far as scanners go, I want to get my hands on that Knockpix, that 1280. Not because I think it's necessary. I mean, I think you can scan if you got a decent scope, you can get away with scanning with a 640 or even a 384 scanner. But
yep.
if I can get my hands on it, yeah, I'm probably gonna try.
Yeah, no, I agree. And a 2X base mag, I think it's gonna be sick. It's just gonna be a big field of view with that objective lens. And again, I'm not saying that anybody needs to go out there and buy it because you gotta have it, but it's just gonna be one of those. It's just a luxury item. I mean, that's
Yeah.
really all it is.
I mean, from what I haven't looked it up recently, but isn't it only like 5 grand?
Yeah, only. Yeah,
Also,
it's
yeah. Oh,
it's
well, you know what I mean.
yeah,
For a
no, I know.
1280 scanner, like that's pretty
Yeah.
impressive,
No,
especially
yeah,
for binoculars.
for sure. Yeah, I agree. Yeah. No, all awesome. And I really think it's hard. Like I know you could go out there and buy something super cheap and not like it, but like I think as long as you do a little bit of research and talk to some people that what I really encourage people to do is get more than one opinion. Like like reach out to Wyatt, reach out to me, ask whoever. But find out, get multiple opinions, not just like one guy that you follow or that you know that has one thermal that likes one brand. Um, you know, I think I think if you do your research, like I am always harping on this is like really research what you're buying. Talk to people, look up videos. Like Wyatt does some of the best reviews and um just all of his YouTube content is such a high quality that I think for a predator world, like watch things like that. Talk to people. Like I feel like it's really hard to go out and buy something you're gonna hate if you just do a little bit of digging on it, on what you should get, or hey, here's what I'm looking at. What do you think? Like, I feel like it's really hard to go out and buy something that you're gonna hate these days.
Yeah. And I would say, like you said, like researching not just the optic, but researching guys that are using that optic similar to your application, whatever you're going to do with it. If you're a coyote hunter in the Midwest or one of these big wide open states, like say you coyote hunt in South Dakota, like you're not going to want to talk to somebody that hog hunts down in Oklahoma or Texas. Like their application for that thermal is going to be way different than what you might need it for. So yeah, whether you talk to a dealer, or whoever you're talking to, try to either make sure that you talk to multiple people and some of those people are using it in the same application that you would be using it, in your state.
Yep, I totally agree. Because like I'm sitting here looking at the uh Knockbex Vista H50R monocular, and you know, I think people look at it on paper and say, "Ooh, it has a 4X base mag. Yuck! Why would you buy that?" Well, when we go to, when we went to Texas, that thing stayed in the truck I think the whole time we were there. I don't think I even used it, but
Yeah.
you go to, Kansas, you go to somewhere in the West or whatever, somewhere big wide open, Illinois, um, you pull that thing out and all of a sudden you can see 7, 8, 900 yards. All of a sudden it's like, ooh, this thing is sweet. So it's like, again, that application of, knowing, because like I said, a guy in Maine might pick that optic up where you can see 100 yards and say, this thing sucks. Why would you ever use it? Right. And then, a guy in South Dakota picks it up and it's like, this thing rocks. So it's just totally, kind of case specific.
Yep. And everybody uses the optics differently too. Some guys like a wider field of view and they shoot picture in picture, and some guys like, a more magnified optic and then they shoot the main image and they don't like picture in picture. Like it also comes down to user preference. Um me personally, I love these higher magnification units. For one, obviously I video a lot of my stuff, and the more magnification I can get, the I don't have to get the coyotes as close.
Yeah.
I can get those coyotes and still get really good footage. But even from a hunting standpoint, I hunt with my brother who still uses um, the hybrid 75, which
Yep.
is a killer scope. I mean, that scope it's a beast. But it's a 4X base magnification unit, and we were shooting coyotes side by side. I was shooting on a 3X, he was shooting on a 4X, and going from the 3X, I shoot a coyote at 200 yards. I'm like, yeah, like I kill a coyote, and I go and look through his scope. I'm like, that kind of looks like he's right on top of us. Like, yeah,
Yep.
it just becomes that much easier of a shot. Um, yeah, I'm a fan of the higher base magnification units. That's not for everybody, but even in Wisconsin here, I hardly run into stands where like a 4X is a problem, but there's definitely some states out there like you mentioned Maine, like states like that where you're hunting some seriously close quarter stuff where the higher base magnification units are going to give you some trouble, but that's why it's good to reach out and get different people's opinions that hunt in your area for each unit.
Yeah, for sure. And I know you're not zooming in, so I'm sure that you like the that higher base mag for sure.
Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking. Like everybody's application is different. For my
Yeah.
application, I don't zoom in at all. I never touch my zoom ring. That's
Yeah, and then there's
unless I'm
me
trying
that's
to get
always
footage of the
cranking
zoom.
on that.
Yeah, I like to keep the quality of the footage high, and the best way to do that is is just leave the image. I do like optical because then I can zoom in the optical,
Right.
and leave the the video image as the base mag, and that's the highest quality I can get. So yeah, I don't touch digital zoom, and I usually don't shoot picture in picture. So call me
Yeah.
crazy.
Yeah, no, I did see a couple of your videos with the picture in picture. I was wondering um how how you liked it, or if it just was purely for, to get a different look.
No, that is one thing I started running on the a lot more on the 1280 just because the picture in picture quality is so high on the like a
Right.
1280, you know, yeah, everybody says, but you cut that in half, it's a 640,
Yep.
if you magnify. So running the picture in picture, on the 1280, I was just like, it's still so good. Like the image quality is so good.
Right.
Um, on some of these other, maybe a 640 or something, like the picture in picture to me, if the quality is less on picture in picture, even though it's more magnified in, I will usually just opt to just shoot the main image just to shoot the higher quality picture. That's just personal preference, but on that 1280, I was definitely running a lot more picture in picture than normal.
Yeah. Yeah, I get you. I just don't like picture in picture just because like the I just get the two images just gets me thrown off. Like I tried to shoot one the other night with picture in picture on, and it just like I don't even know what it is. Just something about the like I don't know if it's just because I'm so used to not using it that the the second image and the second crosshairs like I find myself looking like at the bottom one and the top one and like I don't know. Just like when it comes down to shooting, it's like just a thing in my mind that has me a little bit confused or um maybe it's just like a panic thing too. I don't know. But I just know that it doesn't tend to work very well for me. But if I did it all the time, I would get used to it, I'm sure.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, well, is there anything else you can think of? Like I mentioned to you guys, like Wyatt's got some of the best. I mean, I don't know. Maybe I'm biased, but I think you have some of the best Predator, content that is out there these days. There's not a ton, and I feel
I don't
like,
know, you might be biased. There's some guys that are killing it out there. Like DC Predator guys, there's some
well,
guys out there that are putting out some seriously good content.
yeah, there's not a lot though. Like, I mean, DC, obviously, those guys are just so good at what they do and somehow they continue to do better stuff. I don't know how, but like every time I watch one of their videos, I'm like, how do they keep like getting this better and better and better? Like, it's just awesome what they're doing.
Yeah,
Um,
I'm jealous of some of these guys. I mean, some of these guys that consistently go and kill daytime coyotes. I say that like it's easy, but obviously they're putting in work that we don't see, and you
yep,
know, it's not just a walk in the park for them either. But states where you have the opportunities, and you know, Wisconsin here we have to travel more to go get those opportunities. But I'm jealous of those guys because I just it's hard to get night content to be high quality.
right.
Obviously, I can do pictures or whatever, but it's hard to get that video across on YouTube. Even thermal, I mean thermal, like when you pull it
Yep,
off your scope, it doesn't look as good, and then when you upload it to the internet, it doesn't look as good. It's hard to keep the high quality that I want to come across my content
right.
at with night hunting and thermals.
Yep.
Maybe one day we'll have like 4K thermals and you know down the road, but
Yeah,
um,
I'm sure someday. I mean, I would guess it's
yeah,
probably
it's
not
not
that
ending with
far away.
1280, I'm sure. So
Yeah. No, I'm actually kind of jealous. Like sometimes like I see like, states like Arizona and them that I know those guys all wish they had a night season, but like sometimes I wish we didn't have one strictly for the fact that it would make me day hunt like all the time. Like that's the only option. Not because I don't want to night hunt, because of course I do. But like just like that, like, hey, you have no choice but the day hunt, so go figure it out. And
yep.
I like that. And I think it's just it's just super fun and there is nothing in my opinion. There's nothing outside of like a elk rut. There's nothing like a daylight coyote coming in.
Yeah. Well, it's even like those coyotes that we called out in Western Wisconsin. I mean, we had coyote hunted the night before with thermals, and don't like we had killed some coyotes, and we were, it's still enjoyable, and we still get like the adrenaline rush, and like
Yeah.
that still happens. Like that's gonna happen, I hope, for my entire life. But like we went out and the first day, like coyote that we called in, like like there's three of us out there, we're looking at it, like we're shaking, like visibly. We haven't
Yeah.
called the daytime coyote in a year, a half a year. Like
Yep.
we're all jacked up. We're like, man, we could have like even though we killed whatever we killed the night prior, like five coyotes in at night, like it doesn't even compare to the rush that we were getting for that one daytime coyote. And
Yeah.
then we went on a tear that morning. We were pleasantly surprised. Like we ended up having a really good morning for and daytime calling in general in Wisconsin. Um, But just putting down the thermals and just being like, hey, everybody said you can't call coyotes in Wisconsin. Like, obviously, there's guys that go out and do it, like Christian Berry. I know he hammers some daytime coyotes. Ridge and Valley guys, I know they hammer coyotes, but there's there's just there's stereotypes like, and it's
Yep.
fun when you can go out and break those stereotypes, even if it's in your own mind. Like in my own mind, sometimes I'll be like, yeah, not gonna call on daytime coyotes around here. Like it's just not gonna happen. There's too many guys calling. There's
Yep.
too many people around, and then you go do it. It's just it gets you jacked up. Sometimes even like those western coyotes that we killed out in western Wisconsin, like got me more jacked up than killing some coyotes in Kansas because in Kansas I kind of expect it. Wisconsin, I don't
Yes.
really expect it. So when it did happen, it was like, man, that was fun.
Yeah, exactly. It's like calling it a bobcat. Like you just get that extra excitement because you don't,
Something different.
you don't expect, and you don't expect to see one, like I just made five blank stands and I've been here for 30 minutes and all of a sudden the cat pops out. Like, yeah, it gets you excited. Like,
Yep.
that's just, added, it's the animal factor and the excitement factor that just gets amplified in those situations, and it makes it fun, in my opinion. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
you know too from calling cats and stuff in different places, but like cats are super fun to call in, but man, they can be when you're really trying to call in a cat, they can be a grind, and they can easily get you to where you want to quit and where you think it's impossible, and then all of a sudden one pops out and it makes you forget about all of those blank stands. It's just like what you said about people only see your successful stands and stuff like when we talk about your daytime footage and videos. Um, people don't see all the blank stands that you made. Uh, but you also are gonna forget about all those blank stands as soon as you hit that. Soon as you knocked over that first daylight coyote.
100%. Yeah. I mean, all that stuff plays into the adrenaline rush that when it finally comes together, that it's just like killing a big deer. Like when that finally comes together, all that work that you put in for that, that opportunity. The good thing with coyotes is you can get that feeling a lot more often. You can
Yeah.
get that adrenaline rush. You don't have to wait all of November to shoot that one buck at the end. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
you can get that adrenaline rush multiple times in a day. Or um for me, for my brother and I, like Dawson, we we still like to kill a lot of coyotes, and I feel like in the predator space, there's just numbers just kind of be. And I don't know if it's tournament hunting or what has done this, but I think we're getting away from it a little bit more now. But
Yep.
numbers was a thing. If you can go out and kill 50 coyotes in the night or whatever, 30 coyotes in the night, like you're the man. Like that must be so fun. And don't get me wrong, like we hunted 2 nights in Kansas. Like we stacked some coyotes. I mean, me and my
Yep.
brother, we were shooting good. We were killing coyotes. We got to a point the second night we were there, we stopped at like 4 in the morning because it wasn't like we knew we'd go kill more coyotes. Like if we made another stand, it was to that point where we had gone like 15 stands in a row and killed on every one. And it was like
Yep.
I looked at him, I was like, "You want to keep hunting?" And he's like, like we just got to that point where we were satisfied. And then the next morning I was like, well, let's go hit a daytime stand tomorrow morning. So let's go, like, let's cut the night early, basically. So we
Yep.
ended up doing that. Ended up getting up the next morning, going hitting a daylight stand. Ended up killing a double, and like both of us were visibly shaking. Like, looked
Yep.
at we called in a double, and then we called in a bobcat that had a rabbit in its mouth. We didn't end up buying a cat license, so we just watched it go by. But like that experience that we had was, I mean, we would have traded that whole night of killing 20 some coyotes for that
Yep.
one stand.
Yep.
So kind of where I was going with it. But as a predator hunter, at least for me and my brother, like I feel like we're progressing more to now. It's not about the numbers. It's not about killing 40 coyotes. It's not about taking a kill picture of. Don't get me wrong. I mean, for social media and all that stuff, like it performs the best, and everybody, you know, will give you a high five or whatever you're looking for when you do put up those numbers. But if you ask me if I would rather go make this one daytime stand and kill this double or that quad, or would you rather go kill these 40 coyotes at night? Like, I'm probably going to tell you I'm going to go take those daytime stands every day of the week. Like, it
Yep.
just, we've progressed as hunters, and I hope that I hope that the industry kind of goes that way, that the quality of the stand and the interaction that you get to have with that animal, and with a buddy or with a couple buddies when you can look at each other and you're all visibly shaking, like those type of those stands, those are the ones where you're sitting, you know when we're 60 years old and we're sitting in the rocking chairs, like those are the ones stands that we can still remember.
Right.
But most of my, even now, like most of my nighttime stands in Kansas, I can't tell you what happened. Like I know we killed a
Right.
pile of coyotes, but I'll watch a thermal video back in one of these app, like I'll watch it back in the app and I'll be like, I don't even remember that stand. But
Yep.
you could show me a picture of the coyote that I killed in daytime. I'd tell you everything about it. Just
Yep.
something about the daylight stands and the quality of the stands has definitely appealed to me a lot more in the last year than it has in the past.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there too. And I think the same way. I've been the same way too. In the past like year, I think. And I have noticed too. I feel like you're right. I think we're kind of trending in the right direction. People are starting to get away from the numbers game, and I don't know why, but I don't know if that's just how it was like when we started. Like when was that just the thing? Was to post how many you killed or whatever? I don't really know, but I have noticed. I will say that I have noticed a significantly less amount of people posting like, "Hey, this is number 27 of the year. This is number whatever." And I think that's a good thing. Um, like you said, go out there for the right reasons. It's more than just a kill. It's not doesn't everything doesn't need to be. We don't need to gauge another hunter based on how many coyotes he's killed. And that's kind of where I got away from it is like I felt like we're using, how many coyotes we've killed as a gauge to say, who's better, who's worse. And like I just didn't like that, so like now when people ask me like because of course everyone asks you how many coyotes have you killed this year. I'm sure you get it all the time too. And it's just like I don't know. I haven't killed, I don't know. I haven't been keeping track. I couldn't tell you how many I've killed. I've killed enough, I've killed some. I don't know. Other than that, you know.
Yeah,
Um,
we completely stopped keep. That's what you asked me in the beginning of the podcast. Is like, oh, how's my season gone so far? And like, I tried to quickly come up with like, well, you know, numbers wise, have I done better than past years? Like, I don't even know because I don't keep track anymore. I feel like that's where the industry just kind of tracked in that direction. And not to hate on the older generation, but like that's just where they were at. Is like they had figured out who the good coyote hunters were. And now like the only way to be like take to the next level is, oh, you're trying to be the guy that's going out and he's killing 60 coyotes or you're killing 70 like that's just where the industry had tracked into that bottleneck of, well, the best guys are the guys that are killing absolute piles of them.
yeah.
And like I said, there's a skill to that for sure. Like, don't get me
Yep.
wrong. That's a skill in itself. And these tournament hunters and guys that can stack coyotes, Daniel Wright, like those guys, they are in a different, they're doing something different. They're
Yep.
doing something right, obviously. And I'm just glad to see that that's kind of fading away, because it all incorporates, but that's why I don't get worked up about losing properties. I'm not worried
Yep.
about beating somebody else's number. I'm not,
Yep.
it it just that everything in the podcast that we talked about, like it kind of incorporates into that same thing. Is like if you're not worried about killing a certain amount of coyotes to beat somebody else, one of your buddies or something, if you're not that competitive over the numbers, if you lose a property, like yeah, it sucks, but you're not worried about it as much if you're not trying to, if that competitive side of you is not coming into it. Um,
Right.
so I don't know if that's the older generation that's kind of just where they got to was, you know, everybody's everybody's trying to kill as many coyotes as they can so that they can be at the top of the heat. But I'm glad to see it's tracking kind of back the other way. At least
Yeah.
for us, it is.
Yep. No, I agree. And I think you nailed it with everything you said. And Uh, I agree. I mean, I know how the thing is like the people that kill big numbers, I know how good they are. So like I don't need to know how many they killed, Like I realize that they are a killer and that they're just different. And I didn't even realize that I asked you like how has your winter been? But like I feel like 2, 3 years ago I would have said, how many coyotes have you killed? I wouldn't
Yeah.
even ask of like how is it going or how's it been, or I would have just said, how many have you killed? And you would have said, how whatever number, and then I would have said, oh, that's great, or thought, oh man, that's not great. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
No,
I don't even realize it now that I don't even ask people. You know, I never the question is never how many did you kill, or how was your night last night? How many, I don't really say like how many did you kill last night, you know? Like you can have a great night and not kill as many.
yeah, but I think that just kind of goes along with the territory. Is like as you get better at predator hunting, like when you, in my experience, at least for us, like when we got into it, it was all about like, oh, we want to kill, we want to kill one coyote a night, then we want to kill five, then we, like, oh, what if we killed 10 coyotes in a night? And then like once you kind of do all those things that like you put in your mind as a goal, it's kind of like, it just kind of fades, and the the stigma around it just kind of goes away, and then it's just about making good stands.
Yeah.
And I mean, even like you said, like you didn't even realize that you asked me that question in that way, but we were even in Kansas, I noticed that we were, I had a buddy call me and he's like, how'd you guys do last night? I was like, oh, we did good. Like didn't even say anything about the numbers, but then we were like, dude, you got to hear about the stand that we had during the daytime. Like we just
Yeah.
called in a triple, like they came perfect all on camera, like it was absolutely perfect. Oh, by the way, we killed 19 coyotes last night. Like
Yep.
it's just not a numbers game anymore, which is, in
Yep.
my opinion, is a good thing. It's a healthy thing. It's a it takes away some of that, I don't know what, if you want to call it stress
Yeah.
or whatever you want to call it. It's not, you're out there hunting, it shouldn't be stressful, but you know what I mean. Like it takes
Yeah.
away some of that unhealthy, in my opinion, unhealthy competitiveness that doesn't need to be there when you're out there having fun.
Right. And that's exactly what I was thinking as you're saying this, is it like almost gives me a more relaxed like feeling on stand. And like I think it has put me into a state of relax to where I've screwed up a few times. Cause like I just it's like my night isn't gonna be decided if it's successful or not, whether if I killed that coyote. Like, like I'm still gonna have a great night, whether or not I kill that one coyote that just let get away or just completely screwed up on or missed. Like I'm still gonna wake up tomorrow and be pumped of the night that we had.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I'm saying. Is like it kind of comes along with the territory. Like once you get into that, I don't. Not that you don't care, but it's just the numbers aren't at the top of your mind, and you're not trying to force the issue on killing a lot of numbers.
Yep.
From what I've experienced, like my brother and I, we went out to Kansas. And like I said, we killed a pile of coyotes, and not because we were like, let's go hit, let's go as crazy as we can. Let's not make a stand every 10 minutes. Like we weren't doing that. We were just, hey, let's go hunt this spot. Like, hey, we killed one. Let's that sound more good. Like, or if you would have seen us hunting, you would have been like, man, these guys are like, we were killing coyotes and we're as relaxed as like
Yep.
we were relaxed when we stopped at 4 in the morning. I mean, there was still plenty of daylight to go, and
Yep.
we stopped just because it was like, what we need to put another 10 coyotes in the truck for what? Like,
Yeah.
we've done
But
everything we want to do. We want to go make a good quality daylight stand. Like,
yeah.
yeah, you know,
Yep. No, I completely agree with everything you said. Totally. I feel the same way, and I feel like it's just made things so much more enjoyable. I don't get the like during that cold stretch, like as much as I wanted to be out hunting, I didn't think like, oh man, I got to get out there. I'm falling behind. Wyatt's killed more coyotes than me. I better get out there. Like then I'm just like, hey, I'm gonna get out there when it's good and you know make some good stands.
yep. Yeah, I think overall it makes you a better predator hunter at the end of the day, to have that mentality over the, well, I gotta go kill coyotes because so and so's, he killed some coyotes and now he's got more numbers up than I do.
Right. Yep. Yep. Totally agree. I think all of that is great words of advice for those who are out there struggling and getting super frustrated and mad at their buddies, at their whoever they hunt with. That stuff's just not fun. Somebody misses and then you guys are mad at each other. Somebody makes a mistake, whatever. Just learn from it and move on, and you'll call in another coyote. So, I think it's just a good place, and I'm again, no problems. If your thing is you want to chase numbers, go for it. Doesn't bother me none that way either, but it's just not how I plan to roll anymore. And sounds like you're in the same boat, which we've never even talked about really prior, but it's just funny. Thinking about this now, as much as we would normally like I feel like normally in years past we'd have been like, how many have you killed? How many did you kill that night? How many did you kill? Whatever. And it's funny now talking about it, realizing that we've never even done that.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Like I'm sure you can go back and listen to like prior podcasts of us 2 years ago, and they'll probably be like, "Oh yeah, we killed 305." This like you keep track. It's just weird, and it's good to know that we're not the only ones experiencing it. Like my brother and I, like you're also seeing it, and I hope that the whole industry is kind of tracking that way, and like a lot of the younger generation is kind of going that way because I do feel like it's a better mindset. It keeps everybody a lot. It takes away some of that toxic. I don't know if toxic is the right word, but takes away some of that online competitiveness that is out there, which I think is a good thing.
Yep. Yep, I agree. I think it's all a good thing to keep it positive, and like, unfortunately there's always going to be lots of people against us as hunters, so it's really important that we always try to stay together as best as we can, just for the good of the sport.
Yep, for sure.
All right, Wyatt. Well, I appreciate the heck out of your time and joining me today. Fill everybody in. What's your YouTube channel called? Where can everybody find you on socials and keep up with you?
Yeah, so you guys can find me Instagram, Facebook, just Wyatt Barber, and then YouTube, Grounded Hunting. You can check us out on YouTube for some longer form content, and then Facebook and Instagram for the short stuff that keeps you entertained and keeps you scrolling.
Yep, that's for sure. And Wyatt's good about posting stuff. He posts lots of great content and has lots of good information, reviews, daytime hunts, nighttime hunts, you name it. He's got it, and I would encourage you guys to check it out. So, Wyatt, thanks again, and it's always fun talking with you. So, good luck, and we'll keep in touch as always.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Drew. Thanks for having me on.
Thank you for listening to this episode. If you want to support the Predator Podcast, check out our great partners in the description below. Follow Drew on Instagram at Predator Podcast _Drew. Join the Predator Podcast Facebook community and keep up with real-time tips and tricks to keep putting fur in the truck. Until next time, shoot straight.